Well, well, well. Don't mind me while I take my celebratory bite out of this ice cream cone because Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes giving me something to celebrate here. Little ASMR, whatever they call it for you guys, but I won't bore you with an entire ice cream cone. I had to take one bite because we eating some kneecaps this year. I'll tell you what, if you're not excited about this roster and this practice squad that has a solid lineup right now of players that are veterans, I don't know what you're seeing because I'm super excited. And actually, I got to pull something up here. Bring in Tim Twentyman's article. He was breaking them down earlier, but let's recap it real quick. So your Detroit Lions have now signed quarterback Jake Fromm, running back Jamar Jefferson, wide receiver Tim Patrick, as news broke. I believe that was more last night. Wide receiver Donovan Peoples-Jones. That's a big one coming back to the team. Allen Robinson, that's a huge one. You're talking about a veteran leadership, a guy that is consistent, or at least was consistent, still fairly consistent with what he's able to do. Kingsley made his way back to this roster. He did enough during this preseason to show that he belongs. Jamarco Jones, he's one of the guys that I expected to make this team in the practice squad, excuse me. Shane Zielstra, he's back, tight end. I expected him to make the roster, not the practice squad, but I'm glad to have him back. James Mitchell, did not expect this one, but he's back. Isaac Ukwu, the edge. Mitchell Agudi, another edge / linebacker, made his way back to this team. Defensive tackle Chris Smith, Kyle Pecco, and Pat O'Connor. All three defensive tackles made their way back to this roster. And then, of course, the specialist, the safety, CJ Moore. Super packed practice squad. That is all 16 of your signings. So your Detroit Lions are now maxed out with the practice squad. So let's see what Tim Twentyman has to say about these guys, and then I'll give you a little bit of what I think here going forward for your Detroit Lions. Give me 1 second here. One second here. Chef asking me a quick question here. So anyway, Tim Twentyman breaking down the Lions' initial practice squad. I love bringing in Tim Twentyman stuff. He does a great job. He gives us, the facts, right? The facts and the stats. He's not going to over glorify, things like, some other people do, but the Detroit Lions have finally, signed 16 players to the roster. I'm just going to skip to the goods here. Linebacker Mitchell Agudi. We'll start with him. And here's what he had to say. Agudi has spent most of the 2023 season with the Lions practice squad and was running with the first team defense. Some to start training camp when Marcus Davenport was sidelined with an injury. Agudi flashed potential throughout the preseason, tying for the team lead in tackles, 12, and coming up second in tackles for loss with 2 during the preseason. Look, Mitchell Agudi flashed big time. When I saw him in practice at the preseason game that I went to, I would say that I was highly surprised that he was not on this roster as of yesterday. I'm kind of understanding a little bit now as to why the Lions are doing what they're doing. And I think it's pretty clear and evident that a lot of these guys had already agreed that, they wanted to come back should they clear waivers. And some of the guys that were cut potential, a lot of these guys wanted to come back to this team. This is now what is being referred to as a Super Bowl contender. And I kept browsing the internet this afternoon and looking for all the waiver signings, and I kept seeing that this player signed to a Super Bowl contender, this player signed to a Super Bowl contender, and I'm like, man, that's got a nice little ring to it. How about we take it one step further? This player signed on a Super Bowl winning team, right? Of 2024, 2025, however you want to look at it. But that's your Detroit Lions this year. I promise you, we're going to be doing something big this year. Quarterback Jake Fromm. Head coach Dan Campbell said that he was really impressed with the way that Fromm played in the preseason finale versus Pittsburgh. Completed 6 of 8 passes, 89 yards, 110.9 rating. And after being in camp less than 2 weeks, look, this kid didn't have any opportunity to go through the playbook, really. Probably not even learn who he's throwing the ball to, their last names. And he goes in at the end of the game, albeit, yep, it's a bunch of third string guys, and maybe even some 4-stringers in there, that he beat up, man. I mean, he took him to the woodshed. And he was able to complete passes to players that I didn't see Nate Sudfeld able to complete. And that has to be exciting for Dan Campbell to see that. You know, you bring this guy in off the street because you're down for an injury to Hendon Hooker, and he completely runs away with it. And now Nate Sudfeld has been, cast away, off to the sun, as Eric likes to say. And Jake Fromm is now your Detroit Lions' third quarterback as of today. So he has started some games. He does bring experience to this position, and it clearly showed. Clearly showed. Running back Jermar Jefferson, the lone running back that I said would make this roster practice squad, has found his way back. And just so if we're going to keep a tally here, on my practice squad that I posted on Twitter, I had Jake Fromm. I did have Nate Sudfeld listed, so I got that one wrong. I did have Jermar Jefferson. So Jermar Jefferson had a really nice training camp, but the Lions are just so deep and talented at running back. Yes, they are. Asked about Jefferson during camp, and Campbell said that he was in a really good spot and that it showed. He had 2 touchdown runs in the final preseason game versus Pittsburgh and has a career rushing average of 4.9 yards per carry, with a couple of TDs in the regular season. I don't know if you guys know this. It is extremely hard to run for almost 5 yards a carry in the NFL. Like when we see David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs doing that, I'm surprised. I'm not surprised because of their talent level, their skill set, and who they are. I'm not surprised because of the offensive line that we have. But even with all of that, it is extremely difficult to run for almost 5 yards a carry in the NFL. The fact that Jermar Jefferson has been able to do it, I think that speaks volumes to the type of talent this guy has. He's just on an uphill battle right now, trying to crack a roster that is extremely deep. And for him, he's being smart here. Getting claimed off of waivers or, whether you're signing with a team, whatever the case may be, he's smart here. He knows that this is a winning ball club. And this ball club has, a big opportunity this year to go the distance. And injuries happen more often than not. And hopefully it doesn't happen this year, right? But there's always that chance. He's in a good spot. He's in a very good spot. I think anyone right now that is on the Lions practice squad is in a great spot. Tackle, Jamarco Jones. So, like I said yesterday, I expected Jamarco Jones potentially to make this roster. And the Lions would, kind of do a full sweep here and keep just about everybody. But I had him just missing the cut there. And I had the Lions only keeping 8 with, Mahogany going to NFI. And I had the Lions going deeper on the defensive line. Well, they kind of threw us, a curveball here, and they did the exact opposite, kind of. But they went a lot deeper, it looks like, with the cornerback room, the DB room overall. So Jamarco Jones got let go, but he obviously made his way back to this team. He showed a lot in that second preseason game. Like, he clearly showed the guy can play. In my opinion, he was better than the guys we actually kept on the 53 as far as backups. He definitely played better than Colby Sorsdahl. So I'm glad to see him on this team for depth. And, with a position that does tend to suffer more injuries in it than we hope, right? I mean, there's just more injuries to this offensive line every year. They battle in there, man. But here's what Tim said. Jones was also caught up in a numbers game for inclusion on the 53-man roster. With the Lions going heavy at tackle, Jones started 7 games for Seattle over 3 seasons, so it's nice to have that kind of experience on the practice squad. You cannot trade experience for anything in this league. He's been in it, right? He's been in the fight. Matter of fact, he's gone up against our Detroit Lions, so he's gone up against some of the best ends and tackles in the game. And to see him making his way on this team, I'm excited for it, man. I really am. Tom Kennedy, man. Tom. The preseason darling of every season. Tom Kennedy, veteran receiver now with the Detroit Lions, who has played in 20 career games with 25 receptions for 195 yards. He's definitely the insurance policy, as Tim said here, for the slot position, and can also jump in and be a core special teamer, as needed. Tom Kennedy is just a guy that produces, right? He's always around. He's just kind of that fly in the wall that just never goes away. And then you kind of, go to flick at it 4 days later and it's still alive. That's Tom Kennedy, because he's had like more than 22 or 23 transactions now for the Detroit Lions over the last few seasons. Up, down, up, down. I mean, he's just consistently making his way back to this team. So shout out to Tom Kennedy, man. You are keeping your streak alive. And of course, you can never have enough Tom Kennedys on your team. This guy's an absolute gamer. Solid dude. James Mitchell, one big surprise, out of James Mitchell is that I'm surprised that Brad Holmes didn't stick him on the roster. Speaking of flies, I got a fly in here. It was really nice, to see that the Lions went a different direction, and they went with the players that really stuck out in preseason, that earned that position, and that's what they did. Obviously, Brock Wright and Sam Laporta were your heavy, 1-2 punch. Shane Zielstra, we thought, has done plenty throughout this season. And again, it was just a numbers game. But Parker Hess really showed why he's so valuable. And as a blocking tight end, and with the Lions trying to go big in the running game, and pound that rock this year, take that clock away from the opponent, James Mitchell just hasn't done enough. He has not shown enough in that part of his game yet. But Parker Hess, Brock Wright, they have it. So here's what 20 Men said. It was a really close competition all throughout camp for the third tight end spot behind Laporta and Wright. But Parker Hess's versatility ended up earning him a roster spot. Mitchell, a former 5th-round pick by the Detroit Lions in 2022, has shown an ability to make plays. He's a nice veteran to have on the practice squad for insurance at the position. He might be a veteran by, years in the league standard, but he just hasn't had a ton of opportunity to produce in games. Probably won't change much this year unless we suffer some injuries. And again, that's what the insurance policy is all about with the practice squad. Now we got CJ Moore, the specialist of safeties, a guy that the Lions definitely wanted back on this team this year, giving him another opportunity after he served his suspension. And the Lions opted to keep a couple of young safeties and Brandon Joseph and Lawrence Strickland on the initial roster, but found a spot for the veteran CJ Moore on the practice squad. He is a terrific special teamer with 56 career games logged under his belt so far. Now, this is a good move for a few reasons. One, you've got the veteran presence, as 20 Men mentioned, and he's someone that's going to teach these young guys, right? He's going to be a mentor to these young guys. He's also going to let them know, things that he knows. And kind of give them the keys, to elevate their game a little bit. And I think that that's a great acquisition for the Detroit Lions to keep him around. And of course, we don't know what's going on with Iffy. I haven't heard anything or read anything on Iffy yet. I don't even know if anything has been out on him yet. But that's obviously an insurance policy for, if Yatu Melifonwu can't come back soon. Then you have defensive lineman Pat O'Connor. This one was totally blindside for me. I did not see O'Connor making this practice squad. I did see Chris Smith making the practice squad. I did not see O'Connor making it because I had a Goody, and who else did I have on the regular roster? It was a Goody and the other guy. Why am I blanking here? Hold on. It was Ukwu. There we go. Ukwu, who also made the practice squad. So we'll get to him in just a minute, too. But Pat O'Connor brings a ton of experience to the practice squad in Detroit's defensive line room. Over the last 6 seasons, he's played in 68 career games for the Tampa Bay Bucks. He's got the ability to play on the edge and on the inside. If you guys haven't noticed a trend with Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes, I started to notice this trend last year and kind of throughout the season. Like they started adding, in this offseason, they started adding players from teams that we're going up against this year. So if you look at the roster, or if you look at the schedule, and then you look at the guys that we brought in a lot of players that have a lot of familiarity with the teams that we're going up against. And that is a huge competition elevation from my perspective. You are giving yourself an edge on the competition when you bring in, former guys that played with that team that know what that team's all about. They're going to know some of the weaknesses and strengths and what they do well and what they don't do well, or at least from last year's perspective. Or, when they're breaking down tape, they're looking at certain elements of a game or situations. They're going to say, yep, this guy likes to roll here more often, talking about a safety or a cornerback or even a linebacker. In this situation, this guy tends to roll this way. Well, that could be defined as a weakness if you know that it's coming. So I think Brad Holmes does things a little bit differently here. And I'm not saying that I know for sure that that's why he made those moves. But if I were a coach or if I were a GM, those are the things that I would be doing. I would be looking for any edge on the competition, right? Not breaking the rules here. You're bringing guys in that can help. So Pat O'Connor, again, another guy that brings a lot of experience and someone that was cut and had to be re-signed. So you just don't know how many handshake deals went down, with the Lions and some of these players to say, hey, we want you back. Come on back. And we'll see you tomorrow. I could only expect some of that stuff went down, behind the scenes. Wide receiver, Tim Patrick, and I will jump into the chat here and we'll talk about all these guys here in just a moment. Wide receiver, Tim Patrick. Patrick, 28 years old, missed the last 2 seasons after tearing his ACL in August and his Achilles in July of 2023. Both 22 and 23, sorry. Despite those injuries, he's worked his way back and caught 5 passes, including a touchdown this preseason. Patrick is 6'4", 212 pounds. He last caught 53 passes for 734 yards and 5 touchdowns for the Broncos in his last full season of 2021. If we can get anything close to even 500 yards out of this guy, 40 balls, I would be ecstatic. I think that that's a great pickup for the Lions. I think he could do more than that, but he's got to earn his way onto this team first. And I have no doubt that he's going to be fighting right alongside with the other guy that we picked up today, which was a huge shocker. And that was Allen Robinson. Let me skip to him for just a moment. This is a big pickup for the Lions. You want to talk about a guy, not only a 10-year veteran in the league, but a guy with size, 6'2", right? Experience as a receiver for the last 10 seasons in the NFL. He's seen it all. And he's going to compete with Tim Patrick by week 1 to make this roster. Robinson has 562 career receptions for a little over 7,000 yards and 43 TDs. This is going to be a guy I'm going to go and watch his tape all night tonight. He had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons in 2019, 2020, playing for Chicago. So he's been there, done it. Like, he was one of the receivers that I did not like going up against as a Detroit Lion because we had a terrible defensive back room. And he always seemed to have good games against the Lions each year. But this is a guy that brings a lot of experience. He's a competitor. Yeah, he's healthy. He didn't have the greatest of seasons last year. Matter of fact, I had his stats up. I don't know what I did with them. He didn't have, the greatest of seasons last year, but it wasn't, anything to balk at. Hold on here. Got too many screens open. So last year with the Giants, or I'm sorry, the Steelers, played in all 17 games. He had 34 receptions, 49 targets, 280 yards, 8.2 yards a reception. It's a little low on the reception average. No TDs. Had a long catch at 31. And no fumbles. So, I mean, it's not terrible, right? I mean, but then you're looking at those numbers and you're kind of wondering why. You know, why was it so low? Well, we're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers last year. I mean, they just had 2 new quarterbacks brought in this year and got rid of Kenny Pickett for a reason. So I think that's your answer. The guy couldn't produce on a team that didn't have a good team. They were all defense. They were not offense. So this is a guy that can, you know, he can do it. He played for the Rams in 2022. So he's bringing in a lot of energy. Like, this guy wants to win a ring, and he's probably going to be able to do it if he sticks around with the Lions all season. Let me back up to, their OC was trash too, Chris. 1,000%. Let's back up to the guy that I'm also really excited to have back. And again, a guy that did not have to sign with this team, but he did. Kyle Peko. Peko is probably the toughest decision when it came to the final roster spot to trim down per Tim Twentyman. He was getting first team reps early in training camp. He played in 42 career games, gives the Lions an experienced interior option on the practice squad if needed. Well, it is needed, and it's needed probably week 1. I'm expecting that Kyle Peko is going to get elevated week 1 and be ready to play in that game. Unless something drastically changes with Broderick Martin or you know, if DJ Reader is able to get, you know, ready and you know, feels solid for week 1. I'm not buying that right now, but I think Kyle Peko is probably going to get the start, and or Levi obviously would get the start, but Kyle Peko would be able to get brought up for week 1 and you know, play in a rotational role, give the Lions some depth. That's what I'm expecting. Also brought in defensive lineman Chris Smith. I did expect Smith, like I said, to make this roster, but I had more guys making, you know, the initial roster. I'm sorry, making the practice squad. I did have more guys making the initial roster. I had 11, and I thought that they were going to slide Martin to the short-term IR, and that Peko was going to slide in, making the roster, and that Ukwu and Betts were going to make the roster, but clearly Betts didn't make it, and Ukwu didn't make it either, but now he's back on the team. So Smith is he's young. He's a developing player. The coaching staff really likes him. He flashed him in the preseason. He's got a nice first step to go along with a 305-pound frame. There's a few things you can't teach in the NFL. One is size. The other, well, is speed. And if he's got a nice first step and he's got the size, well, Terrell Williams is going to be able to work with that. So we'll see what happens with Chris Smith's development over the season. Not expecting a whole lot out of this guy, just someone to occupy a position and give the Lions more depth in case that they need it. Another guy that I'm super excited about here, defensive lineman, Isaac Ukwu. Ukwu, man, come on. This guy, he was flashing all over the place in the preseason. You couldn't keep him away from a quarterback. You couldn't keep him out of a play. He had a terrific preseason, and I agree right with what Tim Twentyman is saying here. Ukwu had a terrific preseason for the Lions. He recorded a sack in each of their 3 preseason games. You want to talk about a shocker? I was so shocked to see the Lions let him go. Extremely. I thought for sure he was gone. An undrafted rookie out of Ole Miss, great strength, terrific motor, high character guy, right? He's someone that the Lions want to continue to work with and develop. And I got to be honest here, he's in a phenomenal position, even though that this is a thick defensive line. And we are stacked with incredible talent. Who wouldn't want to work with Terrell Williams? Who wouldn't want to work with DJ Reader? Who wouldn't want to work with Aiden Hutchinson and Marcus Davenport? I mean, you're around a class of defensive linemen in the NFL that just doesn't come around very often. And the Lions have a boatload of them. Depth is how you win in the NFL. Depth. Tight end Shane Zielstra. So happy this dude's back. The Lions were so very experienced at the tight end position in camp. There was bound to be some tough decisions here, according to Tim Twentyman. It's a big reason why both Mitchell and Zylstra made the practice squad. Zylstra had 4 touchdowns playing in 13 games for the Lions in 2022. Obviously suffered major injury last season during, I think it was Dorsey that took him out in camp. So that is your practice squad. It is full. I actually think that there's one more. Hold on here. I think I'm missing one more here. Tom Kennedy. Kingsley Aguakun. So that was not on Tim Twentyman's list. Tim obviously put it out before. Kingsley must have been added. Kingsley, look, he had a great preseason too, man. He showed enough. He really did. So I'm glad to see him back. I mean, you grade your Detroit Lions here 1 to 10. 1 from a roster standpoint. Where are you ranking this year's 53-man roster as soon as we get to 53 on a scale of 1 to 10? And we'll frame it this way. Obviously, 1 being not any better, 10 being extremely better over last year's roster. Where would you say that our roster stacks up against last year? 1 to 10. Obviously, 1 is the low point, 10 is the high point. How much better do you feel we have gotten year over year with this roster? Because, man, yeah, I see your question in there. Where's Ty Summers? That one's baffling to me. And I haven't watched every move this year or today, so I don't know if he was picked up by anyone else. So we got some solid 8s in here. J-Bommy has an 8. Casey has a solid 8. Summers went to the Giants. Go figure. Shout out to Ryan Van Valkenburg, member of the channel, keeping us honest here with our information. Appreciate it. And Cake Man and Trace, you guys are on it. Grammar School 1 says 8 for sure. Rich Forrest, he's on it too. He says Giants. So 1 to 10, how much better are we? We got 8 so far across the board. Should have put a poll in. Do we got ads running? Did I just see ads are running? Hold on. Yep, sorry. No ads. Just need you to like the stream. Ads are off. There you go. My apologies. So, look, I'm going to give us a 9. Straight up 9. I can't give us a 10 just yet, but I'm going to give us a 9. I think that they've really knocked it out of the park. Now, how do I give us a 10? It's right here in this practice squad. If we keep the majority of these players throughout the season, now there's going to be ebbs and flows to this. We're going to see some players go up, come down. There's going to be some guys that come available. Brad Holmes is still looking. He's still searching. He's still trying to, shape this team. He's always looking. But this is how we get a 10 with what we just did with this practice squad. When's the last time you've seen a practice squad this stacked? And not full of a bunch of guys that we didn't have in the preseason. Now, that's going to be a fun exercise, right? I'm going to go look at the last few seasons. How much of our practice squad was made up of guys that were in camp with us all summer? Or did we end up having to bring in a bunch of other guys that weren't part of this team throughout the training camp? Because right now, when you look at it, yeah, Jake Fromm was only there for a couple of weeks, but he was part of training camp. Jamar Jefferson, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Tom Kennedy, Kingsley, Jamarco Jones, even though it was just a couple of weeks, Shane Zylstra all season, James Mitchell all season, Ukwu and Agudi all season, I think. Chris Smith, Kyle Pecco, a couple weeks. Actually, no, I think he was all season. Pat O'Connor all season. CJ Moore all season. So almost this entire practice squad has been with the Lions all season long. Justin G says, hey, Will, after Patrick and Robinson wide receiver signings, do you still think Brad needs to make a move at wide receiver? I would say he's still looking. Let's just put it that way. Especially when he doesn't know how these guys are going to fit in just yet. I think that they're going to have to get through some practice and see where these guys fit in. I think they'll know probably within a week whether or not these guys are going to be able to work out. And I really hope, really hope that this lights a fire under Donovan Peoples-Jones. So that's the one thing that I was missing too, Mike P. Trevor Nowaski. He was brought back by the Lions, and I think he signed to the 53? Yeah, he was. He was signed directly to the 53-man roster. So smart move by the Detroit Lions, because that's how we lost them last year. So the Detroit Lions were awarded linebacker Trevor Nowaski on waivers on Wednesday, and then he was put directly on the 53-man roster. Nowaski, who played at Plymouth, Salem High, and Saginaw Valley State, he did sign with the Lions last year as an undrafted free agent. Spent the first half of the last season on the team's practice squad. And then, of course, you guys remember, or maybe you don't, that he was elevated because the Lions were worried that he was going to get snaked. And so they elevated him to the 53-man roster. I think that was around the same time that maybe Bugs was sent down or sent packing. I can't remember. And then we had some injury. And then Trevor has to get bounced back down to the practice squad, and Arizona came in and scooped him up. And that was a heartbreaker for Dan and Brad. So he's on the 53, which means he's not going anywhere right now. So we're heavy. We are heavy in the linebacker room. And Brent DeWitt, you ain't lying. He says Lions fans better get used to our practice squad players getting snatched up. We have the cream of the crop now. It's a good problem to have. Quick question to you guys. If you're watching from your phone right now, can you see the chat that is on the screen? Like, can you actually read it? Is it big enough? I've been playing with it, trying to make it a little bit bigger, but I thought it was a unique, way to keep the chat, involved with each show. I know a lot of other channels, they'll do that. They'll have the chat up. I'm just trying to figure out the best way to do it, best way to make it look. So I'll keep playing with it. Trey says we got 183 in this show right now. We only have 67 likes, and she wants 100. So can you guys help us out? We got to get to 100. That helps keep the ads off this channel. Speaking of ads, let me do a quick sponsor shout out right now. The season is here, and you want the latest news and rumors on your Detroit Lions. Head to sportspider.com. That's sports, SPYDER.com, where you can get your Lions news and all your sports in one place. Man, this site is packed with your favorite podcasts, live news, articles from local writers, and insiders, all updating in real time. Not just the Lions, every major sports team, including MMA, UFC, and so much more. Don't want to waste time searching? Sign up for free. Create your ultimate sports news hub. You control what hits your feed at SportsSpider, your number one source for all your sports. Visit SportSpider.com today, right after the show. All right, so since you guys can't really read it, I'm just going to take it off for now. I'll have to fix it later. So anyway, let's talk about these guys. How does this how does this help our roster? What do we expect, from players like Allen Robinson and Tim Patrick? If you look at the Lions depth chart right now, clearly the thing that we've been missing this whole process has been an X receiver. And the Lions now have 3 that they can choose from, and someone just has to step up. So you have Jamison Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and hold on here, and Khalif Raymond, as your top 3 receivers, and behind them you have Isaiah Williams. I don't know why Tom Kennedy is listed. Why is Tom Kennedy listed on the depth chart right now? Did he get elevated already? Is that what? No, there's no way. This can't be right. I'm looking at something that's not right. This is on the Lions website. Tom Kennedy's a practice squad guy. So you got Jamison Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Isaiah Williams, Khalif Raymond. So the 4 players that they brought in, for the main roster, now you have the ability to see how guys like Tim Patrick, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and Allen Robinson are going to get after it in practice and who's going to step up to be that X receiver. And the Lions may have an opportunity to bring 2 up at a time, or maybe just 1. And from week to week, we could see different guys. We could see different matchups. They might like matchups in different games, and guys could be going up and down, throughout the season. I just hope that if, these guys can play, that they can stick around and they don't get snatched, back off of the practice squad. And that is the game that we play. So to be honest with you, when you look at the wide receiver room, we have to be extremely comfortable and confident that Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Khalif Raymond and Isaiah Williams can carry the load this entire season and stay healthy enough to be able to carry the load this entire season. So I'm comfortable with it. I want to see, I'm super excited about Allen Robinson. I really am. I know that, the game is a little beyond him, at 10 years, or 11 seasons in the NFL. But that doesn't mean that he doesn't have any gas left in the tank either. That doesn't mean that he can't go up and high point the ball. And what I've been talking about for an X receiver is getting somebody that can body these guys, right? Body these DBs and block them out and go up and high point that ball in the end zone. That is Allen Robinson. I don't even need a watch tape, and I know that that's Allen Robinson. Shout out to Lions fan 76. He just joined the Lions faithful. Welcome aboard another member. Shout out to you in support of this channel. It goes a long way. And again, shout out to all the other members this morning. I think we had a rash of 15 new members this morning because they were gifted by other members of this channel. So appreciate that very, very much. Can't wait to get to know everybody. Lions fan 76. If you go to the members community tab, you'll see that there's an area that you can add the members only Voxer chat where your members are in there talking about football all day, man. My phone is, I bet you I got 500 messages today, just going off today. Super excited about this season. Lauren McQuaig, hey, he's back in the house, says, I think Robinson is a good signing myself. I do too. And Perryman says, MCDC must have seen something in our training with the Giants. Hey, that's a good call out there. Mike P says, I don't know what you said there, buddy. 16 more likes to 100, says Trace. We can get there. Almost there. Just move the thumb over, get out of the chat for 1 second, and just hit like. It'll be good to go. All right, so Allen Robinson, I feel like this is going to be a guy that if he's healthy enough, right, which I think he is, clearly he is, must have came in and passed his conditioning test, that he can give us a ton of options throughout the season if he sticks around the whole season. I really love the versatility of bringing in a guy like that has that much experience in the NFL and is seen everything. There's nothing that you're going to be able to put past this guy. And, clearly I would assume here, Jared Goff may have a little bit of a say in some of these guys. I like this guy, bring him in, or I feel like I can work with him. I don't know if they have those conversations, but I would assume that he probably knows that he can work with these guys. Superintendent Chalmers says, heck, maybe motivated against the Rams for his time there. It was a short season there with the Rams, but yeah. Casey says, Gibbs, Vaki, Laporta, and Hess or Wright will alleviate some of the wide receiver lack of depth with Ben Johnson's schemes. 1,000% spot on there. Our playbook it seems like it's never ending. There's always something that we haven't seen. Am I wondering about the Calvin Shepard post? Uh-oh, I didn't see it. What was it? Don't be scaring me like that. Was it on Twitter? Come on now. Now I got to look. His dancing on the ceiling with Happy. No. I have no idea, man. No idea, Mike P. You have to send it to me. Send it in the members chat. I'll take a look at it. Scare me like that, like something happened to Calvin Shepard, man. Yeah, so you guys think the chat's kind of you duplicate it? I probably shouldn't do it. I won't do it in the future. Just like to highlight some of the, some of the chat, since we can't call them all out. Some people that watch that don't really participate, they like to see it. I like to highlight everybody. I guess I could figure out a different way. Yeah, I just didn't catch it, Mike. I'm sorry. I think Mike was trying to play a funny with us. It just it went over my head, I guess. All right, so the next guy, let's talk about Tim Patrick. So we've already spoken about him today. A lot of people have spoken about him, today, and I think that there's, a big time right to be excited here. It's another guy that is joining this team by way of injury. Someone that has had to battle back the last couple of seasons, and he's doing just that. David Lyons, welcome to the loyalty crew, my man. Just joined the membership. Level 2, welcome to the crew. Appreciate you. And if you didn't hear the message before, make sure you check out the members only section on the community tab. And there's a post there for you to join the Voxer members only chat. Appreciate you joining, man. Been around for a minute, David. Appreciate you. Big time. So Tim Patrick, like I said, he's coming to the Lions after battling a few injuries. It's a Brad Holmes kind of guy, right? I mean, someone that has proven that he loves the game of football. He didn't let the injuries be too much for him. And he's still here battling today. And he's been very productive with the Broncos. I think he played 7 seasons, every season with the Broncos. Dan Campbell clearly has a relationship with Sean Payton over the Broncos, and I'm sure they had a conversation about Tim Patrick, who was just edged out in a room that was extremely deep for wide receivers. So I think that, both of those guys can really give us some options on this offense. But I think Tim Patrick being younger and having, more of an opportunity to latch on a little bit longer and stick around maybe for a few seasons, he just has to stay healthy. But you're talking about another guy with great size and the ability to go up and get the ball. Now, I haven't seen all of his tape. I've seen a few highlights over the past couple of days, flying around Twitter and that. And he plays exciting football. He really does. And I think he runs pretty good routes. But there's more that I don't know about him. And I can't wait to get to learn more about just who Tim Patrick is. And I'm glad that he's a Detroit Lion right now. He's going to help out this wide receiver room that is definitely missing this X receiver. Anybody else you guys really want to talk about other than, look, Isaac Ukwu and Mitchell Agudi? These are guys that had to come back to this team. They just had to. The way that they played in this preseason, I am extremely excited to see the development of both of these guys. Now, Mitchell Agudi is, was he 6'4", 6'5"? He's a pretty big guy. Let me go back and find out here. He is, come on. Well, why is it not telling me how big he is? I thought he was 6'4". But he played partial season, I think, with Miami last year, or this last year, sorry. And, oh, wow, there's the members doing it again. Ryan Van Valkenburg in the house just gifted 5 new members a membership, man. That's craziness. Richard Blakely, Wilfred Torres, 313 man, Ed O'Neill, Somebody else was just gifted a membership, but they don't have a name there. Like, that's kind of weird. They just disappear. Appreciate that. Ryan, another super shout out to another member doing their thing for this channel. It's incredible. And please understand, like, that stuff is not expected. You guys just doing this stuff out of the kindness of your heart, man. That's awesome. So anyway, I don't know why I'm not seeing how what his weight is. Real quick here on ESPN, it's not even showing up. When I look at Pro Football Reference, it says he's 6'4", 245. And, this is really his first full season, as a football player in the NFL. He's got a lot of growth in front of him. But what he was able to put down against the 2s and 3s during preseason, I can only imagine that growth is going to be exponential and quick with the likes of Terrell Williams coaching him up. So super excited to see what he can do. Maybe he gets an early call-up. Hopefully not to injury, but hopefully he gets an early call-up. Now, the Ole Miss product, Isaac Ukwu, he was a fan favorite throughout the preseason. At least he was in my neck of the woods. A lot of people talking about him. He registers right around 6'3", 6'2 and a half, 6'3". A little bit on the lighter side for a defensive end / linebacker. Where's his weight? I think he's 260. 260-ish out of college. Now, he was a dominant force at Ole Miss. I can't remember who he played with last year. There was someone else that came out of Ole Miss this season that was in the draft. Who was it? Let's see. So they had 3. They had DeAndre Prince, who was selected by the Jaguars, Cedric Johnson, DeHaan Anthony. I thought that there was someone else that came out of Ole Miss this season, but maybe not. Maybe it was last year. But either way, be that as it may, he played in all 13 games with 5 starts in 2023 as a Rebel. Played on the defensive line. He transferred from James Madison University. Finished that season with 30 total tackles, including 4.5 TFLs and 3.5 sacks. And I mean, you want to talk about production. The guy had production. As an outside linebacker, he played in 25 total snaps across the defensive line and special teams. And against Tulane, he notched 6 total tackles and 2 tackles for loss and 1 sack of 5 yards. So there's a lot of things that he's been able to do coming out of college that clearly started to transition from his college game to his NFL game. We've seen him move around a lot in this defense and made plays. And that's just what we need to see happen with these young guys. Just make plays. Just put yourself in the right position and make a play. Don't try to do too much, right? And I think that these guys are going to learn a lot, like I said, from Terrell Williams on how to keep themselves into position to make plays. Big transition for this defensive line this year and what we've seen over years past. What happened to Matty Betts? Does anybody know where Matty Betts is? Did I miss that today? He went unclaimed. That is incredible. He went unclaimed and still didn't make his way back to the Lions. I'm really surprised. So obviously the Lions decided to go with young guys here versus Matthew Betts, which, man, great story. I thought he did enough. I really did. I really did. Well, maybe there's a chance if the Lions need somebody that he can come back. We'll see. I'm shocked that no team picked him up. Really shocked. I just hope he doesn't end up somewhere in the NFC North. Motown Mitch says, yeah, I can't believe he cleared waivers. I can't believe that he has not been picked up. Michael Garrity, welcome into the chat. Says, no word on Betts. I'm surprised. Thought someone would have picked him up. Very disappointed about Betts. Me too. But I mean, I got to be honest. I think that we have an extremely talented practice squad. I mean, it's like a roll of the dice, right? I mean, anyone you land on has been pretty good for us this season. I mean, when I saw that first game, even though we didn't have the greatest game against the New York Giants in the preseason, when I saw the way that defensive line played, I couldn't believe it. I was astounded by how well they played. Yeah, I mean, I came out and I said, that is the best defense that I have seen in all of camp history when I went to training camp. I couldn't believe it. And that was up against, that was the same week there that they were going to be going up against the Giants. Or the next week, I apologize. I was there on the 29th on my birthday. But that was clearly the best defense that I've seen. And it's translated throughout every preseason game. And it's translated into this roster with where the Lions decided to keep players, go heavy on players, and how they loaded up their practice squad with, 2-3 edge guys, right? Or 3 defensive tackles, 2 edge guys. They're not playing around. They want depth. They need the depth. And it's hard to get rid of good talent. I mean, like Brad Holmes says, if you can play the game, we'll find a way to get you on the field. Doesn't matter what position you play. So that's really all I wanted to talk about today. We were just going to kind of go over some of the signings, the waiver, take some questions. Matter of fact, we've got Chef coming on here in about an hour, so I'm not going to stay super long. But yeah, I'm right there with you. Mike, who says, all I know is next Sunday night cannot get here quick enough. We are a couple weeks away from our first game, man. Sunday night football is going to be intense. I'll be there in section 105 with my dad watching opening night as we always do. It's going to be a fun game. It's going to be, I don't want to say a blowout, but I think the Lions are going to come in ready to manhandle the Rams and start to leave while the buildup of a legacy for this season. I think it all starts right there. How well we play that night is either going to push us in one direction or the other. And I think that we don't usually start slow. Other teams like the Rams have started slow, and they don't put a lot of players, into preseason. Matter of fact, Sean McVay hates the preseason. So I guess we'll see which team starts fast. But I'm just hoping that Matt Stafford does not pull off those late game heroics. We almost saw it again last year, and we can't see it this year. So we got to get in and get a win early. I said this morning, it is hard to find, 2, 3, 4 games that the Lions could or should lose on this schedule. I'm still struggling with it. 14-3. I think that definitely locks up the first seed. And you could probably get it with 13 wins. And I think the Lions are right there. 13, 14 wins. Like I got to struggle to find a couple losses. With a roster this packed with depth and talent, and there's no reason why we can't sustain, the season, even with the minor amount of health issues, that you're gonna have from week to week. You're gonna have guys that go down. You're gonna have guys that get banged up. You're never 100% after week 1, and that's the challenge that all of these players face. Is how to take care of their bodies, how to get prepared and ready for the next week. But with a practice squad like this, man, you can rotate guys in and out a little bit more, which is going to keep them healthier. You don't need, 100% of the snaps from Aiden Hutchinson and 100% of the snaps from Alex Anzalone. You just don't need it. There's no reason for it. You can keep these guys a little bit healthier by just taking 10% of their snaps away every game and rotating someone in. I think that's got to be a good plan for them this year. We'll see if they do it. Ibuprofen. That's a great name. That's funny. It says, hit the like button, folks. 162 viewers, 82 likes. We were up way beyond that a little while ago. We were up over 100, I thought. But let's get there. Casey says section 124, mid upper row. I do want to do meet and greet, so I know that there's going to be plenty of tailgates going on for the game. I'll let everyone know where I'm going to be, and a bunch of other people. There'll be people from both teams in the area, so it's a fun place to go meet people and just have a great time. And of course, bring something to share, whatever it is. Let's have a blast, man. Let's kick off this season. But all right, we're going to get back at this tomorrow morning. We got the Rise of Guard morning show right back here at 8 a.m. Kind of out of words for the day, man. A little talked out. Like we're finally here. Now it's finally time to put it together and see where this team goes. So we're back into a little bit of a lull period for about a week, and then we hit the ground running again. Pay attention to the news wires. Brad's not done yet. I just think he's done for a little bit, maybe a couple of days. See how things shake out. But you guys have been great. I appreciate you guys joining me again. Tonight, Chef will be on at 7 p.m. at the All Grit Pod. I'm going to go ahead and drop that in the chat. Go check it out, the All Grit Pod. I have no idea what he's talking about tonight. Could be more of the same, with a nice high-level overview of our practice squad and our roster. But whatever he's talking about, it's great, man. It's great content. So eat it up. Have fun with them. And again, I can't appreciate and say thank you enough to all of the members of Rocked On Detroit Lions. We are pushing 35 members in a week, in large part to a lot of the members of this channel. You guys are awesome, man. We'll see you back here in the morning. Unless something crazy happens tonight, I'll see you in the morning. Take care. Go One Pride. Go Detroit Lions. We'll see you in the next one.
Adam Schefter at ESPN says there's 275,000 people.
Well, that was some party in downtown Detroit. 775,000 people shattering the NFL draft attendance record.
This is the future.
All grit.
Evolution. This is the future.
All